Something happens once you've done a lot of inner work. The patterns that used to keep you stuck, you start to be able to recognize. But instead of the pattern disappearing, it just gets sneakier. And it can start sounding instead like wisdom or strategy or being the bigger person. And because it sounds so reasonable, you don't catch it. Today, I want to talk about why that happens, what's actually going on when our old patterns come up in new ways, and the 3-step process that lets you interrupt that pattern before it makes your decisions for you, even after all the work that you've already done. Welcome back, everybody. We're talking today about why awareness does not stop the self-limiting beliefs and behaviors that ultimately turn into patterns that just don't want to go away, or like weird, fucked up Pokemon evolve the more we get to know them so that they can evade our awareness. Because when we become aware of them, we become more able and empowered to stop them. And of course, these persistent beliefs and behaviors exist to protect us. They're not going to go away so easily. So this is self-limiting belief and behavior breakup 202, meaning we're going beyond 101 here. This isn't people-pleasing 101, self-abandonment 101. This is getting into what I'm calling the knowing and doing gap. This is a phenomenon where you can see yourself doing the thing that you do not want to do anymore in real time without the ability to intervene and stop. This is so common, and yet when it happens to us, it feels very shameful. It feels like a personal feeling and a character flaw. And that's not the case at all. It's a very specific problem with a very specific solution that most of us think is willpower and discipline, but is actually something really surprising. Now, if you think about it, by the time the self-limiting pattern activates, so I'm talking about self-abandonment, people-pleasing, perfectionism, overthinking, or any variety of those different attitudes and mindsets, by the time these activate, your nervous system is already shifted into survival mode. And you have now been taken over by this perspective that wants to keep you safe and will therefore limit you. I can call this impulse within us the inner critic. And especially if you've done inner work most of the time, it's not going to show up as like the voice of your mean parent or even outright fear. It'll show up as a very reasonable sounding thought. It will say things like, it would be better if you did more research, or you don't really need to bring that up right now. This isn't a good time to do that. And there's different little disguises that this part of us will show up as, which we're going to get into. But the point I want to make here is you can't break through these patterns with willpower alone because it lives in the body. Your body is already bracing before your brain can even recognize that you are in the pattern. So more awareness, more journaling, more working on yourself, it is always a good thing, but it is not going to close the gap. It's not going to catch this evolved version of your inner critic because you cannot think your way out of a body-based response. You need something that works in the moment at the level the pattern actually operates, and that is a somatic level. Now, I mentioned once you've done this inner work, these limiting beliefs and behaviors don't disappear. They just go underground and they start showing up as these impulses and perspectives that sound really reasonable and almost helpful, but are actually pretty self-destructive. So I want to share the 3 disguises that your inner critic can wear that, again, seem really helpful or useful, but are actually just keeping you stuck in a different way that you're used to and therefore flying under your radar. The first is, I'm just being kind. Anything where you feel like you're doing it because it's the nice thing to do, the kind thing to do. Real kindness and self-abandonment can look identical from the outside. And you'll know the difference by your inner experience. If you can tune into, let's say, letting someone else have what you want, see if it feels more fulfilling because you did it from integrity or more of a breeding ground for resentment because you let old patterns of putting yourself last make the choice for you. So you have to be able to feel into where is the impulse to just be nice or just be kind in this instance coming from. And you have to know what that feels like in your body because genuine generosity will not leave you feeling resentful later. It's not going to have you spinning over the conversation, the event over and over again, wishing that you had done things differently. Real kindness is in integrity, and you choose it not because it'll make you look good or put you in good favor with somebody, but because it's what you genuinely want to do. So anytime you're telling yourself you're doing something to be the kinder person, the nicer person in the situation, but it's actually costing you quite a bit, and on some level, you're secretly upset about it, it's not really just about being kind at that point. The second disguise that these limiting beliefs and behaviors can manifest as that parades as something helpful but is not, is anything that's like, I'm being strategic, or this makes a lot of sense. It makes more sense to do it this way. This is fear dressed up as logic. These are the moves that make sense, quote unquote, but conveniently also keep you smaller, safer, and less visible. For example, let's say you're a coach and you decide that you're going to soften or negotiate on your pricing because the market is tough. But what you might really be afraid of underneath that is not getting any sales, and that meaning that you're not worth it. Waiting to launch until you have more testimonials, a better website, a cleaner offer, basically accumulating reasons that all sound reasonable, but add up to staying exactly where you are and staying invisible. This is actually a little bit of what happened to me when I went offline with Self-Help Witch. So I mentioned in my very quick Hey, I'm Back episode that was about 4 minutes long, 2 episodes ago now, that I left the Self-Help Witch brand behind in August of 2025 because I hired a marketing guy and he told me that my messaging, what I was trying to do, it made more sense to leave astrology out of it, that I would be confusing people who are interested in self-development and personal growth by talking about astrology and spirituality. And at first, I felt really visceral, hell no. That was my reaction that I immediately had. And I sat with it at the time, and I started to wonder if that visceral hell no was my own defense mechanisms. Maybe that's just me being defensive about someone else telling me what to do, even though I hired this guy to tell me what to do. And I thought, maybe he's right. Maybe I do need to be more strategic in my business. Maybe I am trying to speak to an audience that is an audience of one. Maybe this is only a me thing and not really something that works as a business model. And so I listened to him because it sounded reasonable. But now that I'm like 6 months away from that, I can look back in hindsight and see it was actually the opposite. That visceral hell no was not me being defensive. That was my internal voice saying, that is not it. That is the wrong solution. Astrology is a key part of what we're doing here. Let's keep it. And I can also see that the impulse to listen to authority came into play for me as well, that it seemed like someone who knew what they were doing, right? Someone I hired because they thought he knew what he was doing was telling me what to do. I need to listen to this person. I inherently trusted them more than I trusted myself. I wouldn't call what happened people pleasing, but I would call it shape shifting. There was a way in which I was trying to mold myself to fit some standard of success that I thought I had to be in order to be successful in my business, instead of saying, I'm in charge here. This is what I want to do. This is my vision. This is my business. This is what I think needs to happen. It's very easy when we're recovering from self-abandonment and low self-worth and rebuilding our self-trust for us to get lost in that, for us to lose our own internal compass. And take it from me, someone who had been deeply in the work for about 4 years at that point. It was very hard for me to distinguish what was an authentic response from my intuition and some kind of defense mechanism or self-limiting belief or behavior. I wish what I would have done was understood that my first gut reactions have wisdom. They are there for a reason. And this ultimately, and especially in this particular instance, that I am the only one who can make those decisions and other people can guide me, but it's not up to them, it's up to me. And I can't make a decision because someone else is telling me it's a good idea. I need to know and believe for myself that it is a good idea as well. The third disguise that your self-limiting tendency can show up as after you've done the work for a while is being the bigger person. This can show up when you are in avoidance, especially when you're maybe, let's say, avoiding conflict. And you might be looking at that avoidance as emotional maturity. The way that you can tell, though, that it's not just emotional maturity is there's a level at which you feel virtuous and maybe even better than. There's a level of superiority. And there's also a secret, almost imperceptible level of resentment because you are not acting in integrity. For example, not bringing up a recurring issue because you feel like it's not worth the fight, but then noticing that you've been cold and distant all week without quite knowing why. This actually just happened to me less than a week ago. I was having an argument with someone. They said something that upset me. I thought to myself, this is exactly what's upsetting me, but I can't say it. That was the place that I really should have started paying attention to. I can't say it. Why not? Why can't you say it? I thought the other person can't handle it. Listen, that's not a good reason. That's not a good reason to keep it to yourself. If it's coming up for you and it's legitimate for you, the other person can and should be able to handle it. And if they cannot or choose not to, that has nothing to do with you. I realized in that interaction, because guess what? I actually did end up saying the thing that I did not think I could say. And when I tell you, I had the most intense cry. I cried harder than I've ever cried in my life, and it really came out of nowhere because I didn't think this was bothering me that much. But the more the conversation went on, the more the thing that I wanted to say just felt like it was building and building until finally I just said it. I just said it because I couldn't keep it in any longer. And when I said it, something opened in me and I just sobbed. I felt the most incredible clearing in my heart space after doing this. And none of this happened on purpose. It was just a truth that I couldn't suppress any longer. But going through that whole process made me realize I thought I was being the bigger person by just dealing with it on my own. And what I was actually doing was fueling this self-sabotaging tendency, this limiting, minimizing, shrinking tendency within us to keep us small and stuck and safe and in the same place, when what I really needed to do was speak up for myself and have my own back. So pay attention to this one because it's, I think, especially insidious because it makes you feel like you're better than the other person on some level. It's really serving you on several levels. It's keeping you from engaging in what could become conflict, which is obviously very protective, but is not super healthy. And it can make you think that you're better than the other person on some level, which is what happened to me. The common thread in all three of these, though, is they sound like a conscious choice when what's actually happening is that self-limiting tendency, that inner critic, already made the decision before you got there, before you were even online to make a decision for yourself. So now I want to teach you the 3 steps to help you start to disrupt this pattern. And this will work no matter where you are in your inner work journey, whether you're just getting started, whether you've been doing this work for years. These are the 3 steps that will help you disrupt this pattern. I do want to say, I'm going to go over each of the 3 steps here, but I go over them in much more detail in my free guide for how to get your inner critic to shut the fuck up. And these 3 steps are the key to doing exactly that. And I go over them in a lot more detail in the free guide. So you can get that in the show notes, but I'll go ahead and tell you what they are right now as well. The first step is to recognize. It's about recognizing when fear is taking the reins. This is, I think, the hardest part, but it becomes much easier when you know the secret that I've already told you. that fear lives in your body. So, in order to recognize when the limiting impulse within you, the inner critic, those limiting beliefs and behaviors, people pleasing, overthinking, perfectionism, self abandonment, all of it, recognizing that means having a very strong connection to your felt experience, to your body, being able to feel in real time how things feel for you, because that is how you'll know the difference between your inner critic and your intuition. Your inner critic feels urgent. It feels like scarcity. It feels like fear. It feels like a constriction, a clenching. And your intuition feels expansive, open, generative, unrushed, and unbothered. So you have to be able to feel into your body to know when one is driving the wheel versus another. As soon as you're able to recognize when you're in a fear response, the next step is to regulate. The next step is to regulate, because you cannot logic your way out of a fear response. I said that fear lives in the body, and that means the way that we're going to work with that fear is also through the body. I offer a couple of different practices in the guide that you can look through, but essentially you want to use a body-based practice, a somatic practice, to get out of that fear state and just calm your nervous system and calm your body back down so that you can get clear again. Because the thing about fear is it puts us in a place where we do not have access to the part of our brain that can plan ahead and strategize. Our focus becomes really zoomed in and focused in on sheer survival, which means what's happening right now? What do I need to do right this second? Whatever we think the urgent problem is, even if the urgent problem is they're going to see me as being difficult or hard to work with, we could see that as an existential threat on some level, because maybe as children, we were scolded frequently for being difficult, quote unquote. And so now we've overcorrected, and that's the thing we're trying to deal with now. So you've got to know, one, when is that happening? And two, you have to have the presence of mind to go beyond just knowing that it's happening and calm your body down so that you can start to expand your vision, get access back to your prefrontal cortex where you can start to strategize again, make decisions from a clear place, and not just react to what you perceive is happening in the moment. Once you have regulated and you're back to a calm state, you are ready to reprogram. Reprogramming here is not some fancy thing that you need a specialist to help you with. It's actually about becoming your own evidence that things can be different. And in this case, it really just looks like one small step of aligned action. Taking a 1% step in the direction that you want to go in instead of the old pattern that you've been trying to break out of is how the pattern shifts over time. It's not through insight like journaling or what have you, although that can definitely be very powerful in this process. But in order to have proof that things can be different, you need to become that proof. Yes, you can have role models and you can have people you look up to, but there is nothing like becoming your own proof. Silly example. Let's say my husband says, "What do you want for dinner?" I immediately feel that feeling in my chest of constriction, which tells me I'm in people pleasing right now. There's a part of me that wants to just blurt out, "I don't know, what do you want?" But I can recognize, step one, that this is happening. So I'm going to take a deep breath and try to just regulate a little bit really quick. And there's other ways that you can do this, but I'm going to try to bring it back to my breath and my body and sit with the feeling of what do I want for dinner? And maybe I will say, give me a minute to think about it, because I know I need to come back to myself a little bit before I can give an answer. So I buy myself a little bit of time to just sit with it, get access back to my full scope of cognitive abilities so I'm not making a choice out of fear anymore. And then I tell him what I want without fear or worrying about if it's going to cause a fight, because of course it wouldn't. But there's a part of me that's afraid I'm being disagreeable. So I know it's a silly example, but you can see how doing it and actually going through with saying, "This is what I'd like. What do you think?" You start to become proof that you can express your desires and it's safe to do, and it's not scary to do so. It's more than okay to do so. It actually makes you closer with other people to do this. So those are the 3 steps, and again, the guide goes into more detail, so you can grab that in the show notes. But the thing I really wanna emphasize here is, number 1, you are never too far gone to break up with these limiting beliefs and behaviors. I think a lot of people start to feel after they've done many years of inner work and maybe the pattern is still showing up in these sneaky, insidious ways, they start to feel really bad about themselves, like, maybe this is just how I am. Like, I can't break free of this and I just need to accept it. And I wanted to put this episode out to say that's not true at all. I think the tough reality of healing is there's that old phrase, new level, new devil. At every level you beat the final boss of the level before, there's a new final boss waiting for you. And that's not meant to be discouraging. It's just the reality that there's always going to be a part of us that wants to protect us and keep us safe. And that part of us is going to show up in ways that may feel self-sabotaging and may actually be self-sabotaging, self-limiting, self-destructive, self-abandoning. So we have to remain, I hesitate to say vigilant because we're not going to be on guard, on edge, defensive, but we have to stay alert and aware to the fact that this part of us is always going to be with us. She's part of us. So we have to learn how to be good friends with her instead of trying to banish her to the depths, because we all know if we do that, she's just going to come up in weirder and more violent, possibly, ways as well. So this part of you is here to stay, but you can learn ways to work with her at any stage and become more empowered and more in charge of your life in the process. I really hope that this episode helps somebody. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. You can leave a comment down below. If you're listening on Spotify, if you're watching on YouTube, find me on Instagram and TikTok at dana.solara. That's dana.solara. You can DM me and let me know how this landed for you, what questions you have. Get the free guide if you haven't already, and subscribe to the channel wherever you're listening, guys, okay? I hope you have a beautiful day, a beautiful rest of your week, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.